Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the channel. 8th of October, so we're into the autumn season here in Spain. Still varying temperatures, we're getting 27, 28 and some days it's sitting over 30, so it's still quite warm. A bit cooler in the morning, maybe 14, 15 as a low, some mornings about 17 and cooling down in the evening, so it's excellent biking weather at the moment. Not too hot, not too cold. You can take out a mesh jacket and a warmer jacket if you're going out in the mornings, put the mesh jacket in the top box and away you go. So I spoke in a couple of videos back about doing the 6-month review of the DSX 900 and my views and opinions over the last 6 months. So we're at the 6-month period, well we're over, heading towards 7 months on this bike now in Spain. It came out in Spain in April. Most of us who ordered it at Christmas or just before Christmas when it first appeared on the VOGE website pre-ordered, and the bikes were delivered back end of April and early May for some guys who received them. So what are my thoughts after 6 months? Well, every bike you get, there's no perfect bike and there never will be, but to my mind this isn't far off perfect for what I want. Now that being said, you've got to buy a bike for purpose. Now it's great buying this bike because it's cheap and it's got all the bells and whistles, but primarily you need to be buying this type of bike if this is the type of bike you want. If you want luggage, you want to get away, you want to have a bit of an adventure, you want to go off the beaten track and you may hit rough paved roads, etc, etc. Or if you're just into the adventure crowd bike, you may lean that way, but if you're just going to use it for commuting, a commuting bike would be better serviced. Although I would say it's running a lot nicer now with the recent update I've put on it. So we'll go through a few of the things. Initially when I did my first review, I found a few niggles with the bike. The throttle jerk was prominent early on in the early days that when we first had the bike, especially for the early adopters like myself who had the initial software, which was 4.1 on the initial bikes that came in. Now 4.1, it was okay. It was a bit snatchy and a bit uncumbersome at lower speeds. Not so much the jerkiness on the throttle, the fueling on the engine seemed to be off initially for me on the bike, so it meant that slow speed manoeuvring, aside from having a bit of jerk on the throttle, it was plagued by constantly pulling the clutch in and coasting with the clutch, letting the clutch out, pulling it in, and not really letting the engine do its own thing with the revolutions of the engine, controlling the centrifugal balance of the bike. Coming to junctions, corners and riding in town, initially that was a problem for a lot of people, along with the weight of the bike obviously. It's not overly heavy when you ride in it. When you get used to it, it's fine, but certainly when these bugs are ironed out, it's a lot better. So what happened? Well, my initial thoughts were bad negatives on the bike. I had throttle response. I didn't like the position of the rear brake pedal. Gear changing was slightly clunky, the quick shifter was clunky, and the indicator button on the left hand handlebar, I wasn't overly keen on that. Now let's address some of the niggles that I had initially. The clunky gearbox on my bike has really settled down. Now I'm up to about 4,000 kilometers. It's pretty smooth all in all. It's no different to any other bike. If you're changing down on most bikes, you'll get a down clunk in certain gears if you don't match the revs. Certainly after the 4.4 update I've put on, it's a lot better, it's a lot smoother all around, and I'll talk about that in a bit. The things I still dislike are the access to the rear top stand, and I pointed that on the very first video I did, and the indicator. That's about the only two things I dislike about the bike at the moment. Now, over the last 6 months I've really enjoyed riding this bike, and I've really enjoyed having my wife pillion on the back. The bike has held up really well. I've just given it a clean and it's cleaned up great. One of the things that is a pain on the bike, and it just depends how much you want to clean your bike and look after the bike, are the anodized wheels. The gold anodized wheels, you can see on mine, are really, really clean. They're not always like that. I've cleaned them today. I've spent a bit of time cleaning them up. Within an hour or two on a ride, they dust up and they look really filthy. And the problem with the anodized wheels as well, guys, is that when you clean them, if you foam your bike, I use a foamer on this bike, I don't use jet wash, so I foam it all over, leave it sit for 10-15 minutes in the foam, use a brush on it, clean it up with a brush and then hose it down and then chamois it down again. But even doing that on the wheels, even if you brush the wheels and rinse them down, they dry with a grey film on them, so you need to clean them up. like I just said before, it's not perfect. You clean them up and within, depending on where you are, they'll gum up again. A lot of people have said in certain climates, I'm not sure here in Spain, because you know I live in a very dry part of Spain, in southern Spain here, a lot of people have moaned about the anodized wheels, and the anodized wheels almost showing a corrosive finish to them. Well, if you look on the internet and you look on Google about anodized wheels, they have to be cleaned in a certain way. You can't use ordinary detergents or strong detergents. It affects the anodizing on the steel. Likewise on this bike, there's a lot of anodized parts. You've got the forks on the front, the frame, a lot of parts are anodized, so you need to really watch them. If you clean them with the wrong detergent, you will get what looks like oxidization, but it's not oxidization as such. It's a powder white coating that you'll get that almost looks like aluminium when it's oxidizing. So that's what you do get if you don't look after it. I keep mine covered up. I make sure it's clean before I put it away. I don't put it away wet. Things that have changed drastically on mine over the last 6 months of using this. Initially, I was on the 4.1 update, and I found, as you look back on my videos, I found a throttle modification on a website in America that was for the CF Moto 800 MT, and it's basically for this CPU that's built into this bike, and in the F series BMWs, it's the same Bosch ECU unit, and it's designed that when the BMW units go, or any bike that's got the same Bosch unit on, go into a service station and the battery's disconnected, etc, 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 there's a set routine that you go through to, it's not so much remapping the throttle, it's putting the throttle back to a factory reset. And it's like resetting a mobile phone. You turn it off and turn it on again. It just resets it back from anyone messing around with it, revving it while it's been on show, test riders, etc, etc, and it makes the throttle response a lot more smoother, if that's even no way of saying it. A lot smoother, I should say, as we used to say in Old English. More before everything now, I don't know why. A lot more smoother. Right, okay. Another main niggle I had in the first 6 months was the throttle, and you'll have seen that on earlier videos that I posted. If I was throttling on and I was riding, I found if I got to half throttle, I got to a certain amount of revs and I needed another bit of throttle. I was finding that my wrist was in an awful position. It was getting down here somewhere and it was uncomfortable. Since the update I've put on, the 4.4 update, the throttle now only needs a quarter turn, maybe a third of a turn, and you're on full. I'm just watching the dog near my camera. You're on full power at a third of a turn, I would say. So the throttle response is a lot better. Now, looking at the 4.4 update I've got on this, there is an official 4.2 update that's been launched on the later models that gave users the option to change mode on the fly. When I first bought this bike, on the 4.1 update, you had to literally stop the bike to change mode. So from rain to road to sport, you had to change by stopping. You also had to change enduro by stopping, and long pressing to get into endurance, setting it that way. When the 4.2 update came out, official update came out, bikes started shipping on that. I think the second set that came in would have been in maybe July, that's shipped with 4.2. That problem had been solved. The throttle snatchiness remained, and a few of the bits and bobs remained on the bike. 4.3 with the latest bikes that were shipped in the autumn has leveled out a few things, but a few reports have been still around that there is some snatchiness on the throttle, and it is at slow speeds a bit unwieldy, if you like, because the engine management's not quite right. Now, the 4.4 update I've put on this bike, I've done a video on it and I've put the link to the APK, which is an Android file that you need to put on your Android phone, and I've shown you how to connect your Android phone via a Wi-Fi hotspot to the bike to install the 4.4 update. Now, this is a bone of contention with the 4.4 update, guys. The 4.4 update on several forums states that it is a Chinese update for this particular bike, but made for the Chinese market. The app you load on your phone is all in Chinese, and the reason it's made for the Chinese market, this is one view on this, the reason it's made for the Chinese market is they can circumnavigate the emissions controls. Not that they don't have the same emissions controls, but they can if they want to. So hence it's not made for the European market. The other way of thinking on it, and again, this is only what's been on forums, there's no true point on it, no one's confirmed it. The other idea behind the 4.4 update is it's a Polish guy who's developed the 4.4 update from either the 4.2 or the 4.3. So he's taken the code, He's taken a ECU, he's remapped it, he's reflashed it to the app that you use to install the update on your bike, and you put it on your bike and it's okay. Now, if that's the case, that it's a developer that's done this, it begs the thought that the 4.4 update has changed the fueling and the mapping on the bike. It runs great, the throttle response is superb, slow speed handle is superb, gear change is superb, engine note is surprisingly different. It's not as jangly and as chunky as before. So my way of thinking, if it is a developer who's done this, on this 4.4 update, I could be wrong, guys. If there's anybody out there who knows definitively, let me know. But I'm saying that I think this 4.4 update may not pass emissions. So they've chose the best mapping for riding the bike and not the best mapping to pass emissions tests. If that's the case, it's not going to be a big problem, guys, because now we can flash from this Android app, and dealerships have got the 4.2 and 4.3 update in store now, and you could quite easily take your bike along. Okay, you're going to have to pay them to do it, and you could just say, look, I need my bike flashing to 4.3 or 4.2, and they'd quite happily do it, and that would override the 4.4 you've put on it. It'll roll it back if you like. Go put it through your test here, which is 4 years. In the UK, I believe it's 3 years. Once you get it through the test, we get a test for another every 2 years, up to 10 years. So 4 years for the first test in Spain, then year 6, year 8, year 10. After year 10, it's every year. So the worst case scenario is that we have to reflash at 4 years and then again at 6 if you keep the bike that long. But it's an amazing difference. It's like night and day. What I'll do, I'll bring the camera around and I'll start it up, and it's quite hard to explain how it was before, but when you were sat on the bike and you were riding it, you got a lot of engine noise coming up through this vent at the front where the radiator is, and it was almost mechanical and janky. Now that is probably down to the fueling and the way the engine sounds with the timing on that fueling that the bike had. Now it sounds superb. It's got a lovely note to it. When you're going up to that 4,000 rev range and above, and you get the induction noise, it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, all in all, I mean, there's no bike we don't have to tinker with. Throughout the ages, all bikes have been retuned. They've gone on power commanders, etc., etc. So this is going to be no different. People are going to tweak and tune it around. Accessories now that are available for this bike. In the UK, it seems that all models are being sold with the luggage set. Here in Spain, you can buy it without the luggage set. Now here in Spain, all over Europe, you've got shad boxes if you want to put them on, the side opening ones. You've got 2 helmet shad boxes go on the back. Give are doing boxes and racks. You can buy boxes and racks on AliExpress, a lot cheaper. What quality they're going to be like, I don't know. Give are doing screens. There's generic screens now being sold on AliExpress again, which do away with all this paraphernalia. I've got a screen coming on order, and a few other bits that I'll fit, and I'll do a video on them. So all in all, guys, after 6 months, with regards to reliability, the bike itself, the aesthetics of the bike, the build quality of the bike, everything stayed spot on. Initially, I put these F850GS covers on the clutch and the engine cover the other side to protect scuffs on the bottom of the panel. Straight off an F850GS, fit perfectly, even down to this line that goes round. It's all perfect on there. Initially, there was guys putting them on off AliExpress, and I don't know what they were doing on the bikes, and they were writing to me and saying, has your plastic casing on the side of the engine melted? Now, it's hot here in Spain. We get 42, 43, 44 degrees, and I've been riding this all summer through extreme temperatures, riding the bike hard, right up on the temperature range, stopping, the fan's been on. These have never once deteriorated, never once discoloured, melted or anything, so I don't know what that is, guys, or how they've been riding the bikes. The toolbox I've fitted on this side behind the back box, the side box has been perfect for my tools, and all in all, the Kappa rides work faultlessly. All in all, it's stayed good. I mean, no anodisation, no rusting, I should say, of anything. The mirrors came loose on a couple of the nuts because we're on extremely bad bouncy roads. Nipped them up with a spanner and they've been fine since. One thing I've done, I've brought this rear brake up a slight bit because I've got a new set of boots and I'm finding that a bit too low. Likewise on the other side with the gear shift, they are adjustable, and I've brought the gear shift up maybe 20 mil because I've got quite thick boots and I can get under the quick shifter a lot, or the toe shifter I should say, a lot easier than I did before. So yeah, I'll just bring the camera a bit nearer. We'll do an engine start and we'll have a walk round, and Let's have a look. So I'll give you a better look at the bike. You can see how everything's holding up after 6 months. No signs of anything chipping, and it's been ridden pretty hard, guys. You can see the anodized wheels there. You see the front forks, the plastics. I'll go around the front, give you a front view of the bike. Just let me collapse this down a bit. And you can see it's got quite an aggressive stance. It's a good looking bike in my opinion, but that's all subjective. You can see the spots on the front there. Spotlights when you come to a turn and you're turning, whatever side you're turning on, if you're turning left or right, that fog light will flash as a warning to anything coming towards you that you're turning that way, so it's an extra feature. On the back of the bike, and going around this side, we'll have a look around this side. You see the boxes, see the decals I've put on the tank there and the carpy ride on the top. Looking at the back wheels, pretty good still. Chain's been regularly cleaned and oiled. So from the back of the bike, it's got quite an imposing stance for the bike. It is, you know, quite an imposing bike, but when you stand next to it, it's on the side stand, it's nowhere near as imposing as it is when it's on the top stand. Yeah, you can see the luggage box, the toolbox I've put in there that locks in behind the box on the opposite side to the exhaust. See the anodized wheels on the back are still looking good. All the panels are looking good. And all in all, yeah, it's a good overall package. I can't really complain about anything on it. On the rear of the bike, with the rear radar, which is built into this section here, the radar also works in conjunction with the blind spots on the mirror, so if anything comes up on either side of you and it's in a blind spot, you'll get an amber light flashing in either mirror, in either wing mirror. But also this radar on the back that's built in, if anybody comes up behind you fairly quickly and they get within 2 or 3 meters of you, the rear hazard lights will automatically come on, and the radar will detect there's someone behind you. The rear hazards will come on and start flashing to warn them off, if you like. It doesn't mean you're braking or anything or you've put them on. They come on automatically with a near probable accident in the back. Front case facing camera, as you know, is running all the time. It's running 24/7 as soon as you start the bike, as long as you've got sufficient SD card in, and the camera is located here. A 1080p camera that is running all the time and overwriting on the card. You can choose the increments that you want that to run: 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes increments. So if you have an issue, you know the time of the issue, you go to the files that are stored on the SD card and you've got a full view of the accident or whatever you've witnessed. On the dash itself, there's also an incident button, which is a camera button, which if I can get around, I don't know whether I can show you there, guys, you may see it in view there. There's a camera button which is here. Camera button, if you see an incident, that will take an instant photograph of the incident you're witnessing for your own personal records. Yes, all in all, pretty good, guys. Suspension on it's held up pretty well. The Scorpion Rally tyres, really sticky on normal asphalt, normal tarmac. They're road biased. You can see on the tread on these now, they're very road biased. Ideally, if you're going to do anything trail or off-road, you want something a bit more intermediate. But there we go, guys. Let's see if we start it up. I've just had a warning of a low battery on my microphone, so we may just be able to do this without us running out of so we're in neutral. Now we'll just get around the exhaust side. What normally happens, guys, you're sat in this position and you get this awful mechanical jangly sound. Since the 4.4 update, it's not appearing. A much nicer engine note all around, and you can hear the exhaust note on the back. So guys, all in all, a really good package. If you want to know anything else about the bike, ask me in the comments below. There's not much more I can say about it. Every reviewer has reviewed it to bits. Every reviewer has nothing but good words to say about it. The Brembo brakes have been amazing. Plenty of bite on the back to trail brake on the back, and likewise on the front if you're trailing on the front to drop the suspension on a bend. Really good. It handles and rides superb. Really gets into the bends and goes around like glue, even with all the luggage on the back. So guys, there's my 6 months review. There's nothing much I can say from what I've said before. All my previous niggles have more or less been ironed out, and it's only the side stand and the indicator button the top stand and the indicator button that I have a niggle with at the moment. Everything else I'm really happy with. So all in all, a very nice bike, guys. So give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, ask me any questions you want. I've had it for getting on for 7 months now, and I'll give you answers in the sections below. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys. Ride safe.